I'm sure you've heard me talk about 26shirts.com before, but just in case you haven't, let me fill you in. At 26 Shirts, they sell different limited edition sports-themed t-shirts every 2 weeks. After a shirt's prospective 2-week run is over, the design is retired and never sold again. They are operating out of Buffalo and now also offer options in Chicago. For every shirt sold, $8 is donated to a family in need. Not to a major charity or foundation, but to an actual family or individual in need. To show our support here at Chasing Cinema, when you buy a shirt, we will automatically put you into a drawing to win the next shirt free. That's right. You buy a shirt, $8 goes to help a family or individual in need, and you get a shot to win the next shirt absolutely free from Chasing Cinema. So go to www.26shirts.com and buy a unique Buffalo Sports Design t-shirt, help a great cause, and also get entered to win the next shirt absolutely free. Again, that's 26shirts.com, because you have the ability to help a complete stranger just because it's the right thing to do. www.26shirts.com. Help someone now. And thank you for tuning in to ChasingCinema.com's official podcast. If you have not hit the subscribe button on iTunes yet, please do so. That way each week our episodes automatically download to your iTunes, going straight to your iPod, your iPhone, your iPad, any of the above, whatever you may listen to your podcasts on. Or if you're not so much of an iTunes person, it's okay. We are available on YouTube, and that's youtube.com/chasingcinema. You'll be able to find all of our podcasts as well as movie news and video reviews available at your disposal. Make sure to hit the subscribe button on either or of course you can just go to chasingcinema.com and find all the podcasts down in the left-hand box. Ladies and gentlemen, today my name is Jake. Well, I guess every day of my life, my name is Jacob Tiranno, your host here at ChasingCinema.com, and I'm joined by my loyal, faithful co-host / best friend,
Louie Coruzzolo.
And today we're going to be talking about what's going on in the world of motion picture, as me and Louie just kind of catch up, and I'm sure talk about something silly. Going to transfer into some movie news and talk about what's going on in the world of out there, maybe even some television, and then finally wrapping up by reviewing Tomorrowland and the Poltergeist remake. So, without further ado, Louie, what have you been doing this week?
Well, since the school semester has just wrapped up for most of us, I've been, hanging in there, trying to adjust to life without school, which is so pleasant and nice. And I've been trying to catch up on a few things I've missed. Most notably, this podcast. This is, I believe, my consecutive week on the podcast, which hasn't been done in quite some time. It's a nice change, nice change for me to be back on this podcast for more than just a guest spot here and there.
Yeah.
So that's been nice. I finally saw the second Avengers.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did.
What did you think?
I was indifferent about it. It was not necessarily bad, but I wouldn't call it amazing or great. It was okay. I enjoy the first one much better, and it was kind of jumbled. A lot's happening, but at the same time, it felt like a lot wasn't happening. I was a little disappointed in how they handled Scarlet Witch.
Okay.
And Quicksilver.
Yeah,
I didn't like their involvement in storyline too much, and how they got brought into the Marvel universe. I was not pleased with that. Ultron, James Spader, our boy James Spader, he was cool, but at the same time, it was a villain that could have been better. I think Marvel had a problem with this in other films. All the villains, I guess, are good in their own regard, but none of them have put real fear into you.
Mm.
Oh my God, our superheroes are in danger. I never felt this way in Avengers 2, So it was just another task instead of a challenge for them. It felt like. And I miss Loki, of course. You gotta have Loki. The strongest villain in the Marvel universe by far. But it was okay. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people felt the same sentiment. I know you did too. It's kind of hard, but I give Joss Whedon a lot of credit because putting all those different characters into one film, trying to get each character their own well-developed storyline, their own well-developed moment in the film must be extremely difficult. And he did, his finest job attempting that, and he does accomplish a lot, but it was okay. I'm excited to see where like the individual movie goes from here, like what happens with Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, and a lot of other people, which you documented, have been cast into the Captain Marvel, not Captain Marvel. I'm getting ahead of my Captain America movie. Yes. So that's going to be interesting. I'm still looking forward to those movies, but Avengers 2 did not hype me up more for them.
I think I found some major issues with the second Avengers. It was a movie that I got over quickly. It wasn't a movie I kept talking about. Mm-hmm. I thought it was good. Like, I don't think it was bad by any means, but it was very underwhelming. And I think that their mistake is, they have such a huge movie coming out with Captain America Civil War. And I mean, most people are just calling it Avengers 2.5. So maybe they should have just kind of, I don't know. I mean, I know that they have everything planned in a timeline, but I'm hoping that Marvel gains that huge momentum back when it hits us with Civil War. But I've said many times I'm kind of already and over everything of superheroes. Not saying I don't still see a movie and say, wow, it was good, but my excitement level has definitely cooled since the past. But yeah. I don't know. I was very underwhelmed by Avengers 2. Scarlet Witch, as me and Josh Bell talked about on our podcast, which you can go see and listen to on our YouTube page, youtube.com/chasingcinema, me and Josh pretty much agreed, like, they spent all this work trying to get these two characters, and obviously because they're owned by Fox, and though they didn't really figure it out in the long run of how to work with Fox, it was just disappointing. It was like such a waste. You go to all these lengths to get this character, and it's just kind of underwhelming. They were very unmoving. I mean, Taylor Aaron Johnson playing Quicksilver, I think, was just completely just there. He wasn't even a presence in the movie. Scarlet Witch obviously had a little bit more importance, but even she wasn't the most interesting or fascinating character. And yeah, I sometimes felt the relationship between Hulk and Black Widow was forced and just kind of random. Yeah, so there was a couple of things in there that just made me go, I don't know about this.
And the big thing for that film is for Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver to be the main vocal points of the film, because their characters play a huge role in the storyline. Yeah, and I don't know, I felt that I wasn't truly connected with them and weren't a true fan of theirs in the film. That kind of hurt the overall feeling of the film, because they were so important to the movie. You need to get behind them and see their side of it, but I wasn't a fan of how they did that. Yeah, and I'm a fan of Elizabeth Olsen. I think she's a terrific young actress, but I just couldn't get down with that character. And it's there, and it goes back. When I think about her, it goes back to when Agent, I don't remember her name, but Comey Smudgers, the actress in How I Met Your Mother. Okay. I probably butchered her name. I feel bad, but said, he's really fast and she's weird. Describing the characters of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch to Captain America, and it's like, yep. You got, that's as far
pretty
as
much it.
Yeah, and I felt bad for those characters.
So, did you watch anything else?
Movie wise, no, but I have some movies lined up, which I am planning to knock out during this week. I don't want to leak my cards out just yet, just in case things happen or a new movie comes and I watch that. But since out of school, I'm planning to watch those so we could talk more about the movies I've missed on recent episodes.
I don't think I've seen anything new besides the films that we're going to be talking about today, and that is Poltergeist, the remake, and what was the other thing I saw? Tomorrowland. So I can't really think off the top of my head if I've watched anything in between, so we'll just kind of focus on that. But so we'll move over into movie news right now. And now, since I'm constantly updating our YouTube channel each day, 5 times a day, with movie news and movie updates, you could go check out our YouTube page and watch all those videos. I'm actually leading in movie news now, and as Louie is just kind of reading textbooks and such. So,
yeah, our roles have been definitely reversed in this regard.
It's true. So there's a lot going on. I mean, I'm so used to doing so many a day that my news constantly changes, but sometimes there are more interesting things that happen, time being, and then to what's going on right now. I'll look right now, and the video that is most popular that I did from yesterday goes down to the fact that the CBS show Supergirl had some major issues on Friday. Well, I don't know if you'd call them major issues. Let me kind of fill you guys in. CBS is going to be releasing a show called Supergirl, which tells a story of Superman's cousin who is also sent to Earth. She wasn't a baby, though, like Mr. Clark Kent himself. She was, I believe, very young, but still a little bit older, a little bit very, very known of what she came from. She knows who her people are. But anyway, she lives this life. She's an assistant. She gets coffee. From the inside look, we kind of understand she's a little bit a back character. She's, klutzy. And the kind of, the inside look kind of makes it look like basically like a comedy, like a very generic comedy. And then she says, you know what, I could do more. I'm Supergirl. Let me do something. So she eventually puts on a suit and she saves a plane, and then Superman through Jimmy brings her an outfit that she wears and has an S on her chest, and then she turns into Supergirl. I have not been really crazy with the DC television shows. I've not watched much of Arrow or Flash, and I'm just haven't followed them as much as I followed Daredevil, the Marvel TV show, and it's the only superhero show I've actually really followed. And but Supergirl looks like it has good and bad qualities. But either way, this movie is supposed to hit sometime in fall 2015. And at 3 a.m. on Friday, so late Thursday night, early Friday morning, the pilot episode was leaked. So, I mean, it was leaked 6 months ahead of time. And by 9:30 a.m., it was downloaded 120,000 times. So now, I'm not sure if that's really that bad. This isn't impending doom for CBS or anything like that. If anything, it just verifies the fact that people want to see this story and people want to see Supergirl, though it's easily noticeable that the fact that the inside look has over 11 million views already on YouTube. So people do have an interest. But there's some speculations that the leak might not have been an accident. So that's an interesting marketing ploy, but it actually kind of makes sense. Let's give them a little taste. Let's keep people talking about it. I mean, I'm obviously talking about it a lot. Supergirl's been in my my discussions quite often since the inside look released. But either way, I mean, people are like, oh no, it leaked, it's over. But it's not like a movie. It's not where people actually pay to go see it. So if they like the pilot, they might watch it again when it's on TV. They could watch it again. They could DVR it. There's a lot of different aspects of that. And 120,000 is though that sounds like a lot, it's not as bad as you would imagine. Especially when I said 11 million people have watched that video. They'll have plenty of viewership.
Yeah, it's funny as we move more into the future. Stuff being leaked is going to be probably so much more common. Just dating back to last year when all those DVD screeners that get sent out to the Academy, a lot of them leaked online. Especially Still Alice got leaked online, and they took away, I forgot how many downloads, but extreme number. So it's going to become more prevalent in this field. And conspiracy theory or not is on purpose. That's an interesting fact because people have been, I guess, giving it some criticisms about the show. And I know like a BuzzFeed article said like the trailer looked like the mock trailer SNL made of Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like the producers at CBS and that's not good, bad publicity, yada yada. Let's leak it to shut up the critics for 1 second. I guess potentially see that. But unlike music, where if most of an album gets leaked or songs get leaked, people have found ways to illegally down music much more efficiently than movies and TV shows, which definitely hurts the artist. But leaking one episode, like you said, probably won't do too much damage because you still have at least 10 other episodes of the season that will premiere on CBS, and if you're a fan, we'll be tuning in or DVRing, like you said, catching on Hulu, catching online, or if you're gonna pirate it, you're gonna pirate it no matter what.
Yeah, and a great example of this is that I believe the same thing happened to Game of Thrones.
Yes,
season 5, and season 5 had a record-breaking. It leaked. Yeah. And still everyone tuned in for the premiere. So TV is much different in that regard. But it is interesting to kind of say, oh, well, was it on purpose? Was it on accident? But either way, people are going to watch that show, and it's not as big of a deal as some people are thinking. Another thing I talked about yesterday, by the way, you can watch that full in-depth movie news report, again, on ChasingCinema.com's YouTube page, youtube.com/ChasingCinema. I'll stop plugging that for right now. Another interesting thing that happened is that the second Black Mass trailer hit, which showed a little bit more of Johnny Depp getting a little bit more aggravated, shooting a little bit more guns, stepping on people's faces, and of course, wrapping a lyncher on some guy's neck. Everything we'd expect from a gangster movie like this. Louie, what are your thoughts behind Black Mass? I mean, do you think this is going to be a classic gangster movie that we'll be able to look forward to or look back on and appreciate still in 20 years? Do you think that this movie is just going to be all hype like many gangster movies that have been coming up as of late? We have these great trailers. I mean, I remember I was so hooked and so excited for a movie called The Gangster Squad, only to be really, really disappointed because we're constantly looking for a great gangster movie. I mean, I honestly can't remember the last really great gangster movie that we've seen, maybe beyond Departed. I mean, what do you think?
I guess, especially American films, disregarding those foreign films, I think Italy, I forgot the name, had a gangster pick recently that, was applauded by many. I would agree that The Departed was definitely probably the last great gangster pick off the top of my head. Because American Gangster came out, but I wasn't too crazy about that either. Gangster Squad was definitely a bust. So it's the gangster genre subtopic is definitely a dying breed, it seems like. And I highly doubt we're ever going to get another Godfather trilogy or Goodfellas from this genre again. With that being said, I'm very hopeful for Black Mass. Just because of the talent involved in the film is just unbelievable, and Scott Cooper is directing it, which again, he directed Crazy Heart, which I haven't seen, but has been
very well praised, Academy Award nominated.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges, got nominated for his performance as Maggie Gyllenhaal, and I think Jeff Bridges did win his Oscar for that performance, and he did Out of the Furnace, which we were semi fans of. We didn't totally love it, but that was a good direction. So Scott Cooper definitely has a unique style and an unique element to his films, which I think could play really well for this genre topic. And Johnny Depp, you said his last great performance was probably Ed Wood.
Oh no, not necessarily. He did Blow, which was really, really great.
Good,
so.
but
his
it's been a long
track
time.
record has been very, very bumpy as of late.
Last great film he was Tusk.
Yeah, which he was okay in.
Yeah. So, but he's proven in the past that he could play these characters to a T perfectly. So yeah, I have hope, but it's way too early to tell if it's going to be met with the same, praise 20 years from now. We have to watch the film first.
I think the one thing in here that it's going to turn on people is the fact that it's by Scott Cooper. And I'm not taking a shot at Scott Cooper, but watching his films and learning how he is as a director, he's very paced. He's very, very... I mean, I remember when Out of the Furnace was advertised, it kind of probably looked like Black Mass. Looks exciting, it looks fast, it looks harsh. And then Out of the Furnace is a really, really odd ride. It's a very slow and very... I'm not sure the word to really describe it, but it's not as, boom,
in your face,
boom, as it's kind of coming off to be. But I do have hope. As Louis said, we have Benedict Cumberbatch, we have Joel Edgerton, we have Dakota Johnson, and we have Johnny Depp, who actually, regardless of how this movie turns out, I'm just glad Johnny Depp's taking on an actual character he can invest in and really kind of become Whitey Bulger is one of the most vicious American gangsters to ever live. So there's been a lot of controversy on him. I mean, there's, just like out of the movies, I mean, there are witnesses that in his cases that have disappeared and have been found dead. I mean, there's a lot of controversy around this man. And but from what I've seen from the trailers, the movie does look exciting, but I keep telling myself the movie's not going to have that same pacing and it's not going to have that same feel. Though I think that the possible quiet moments at the dinner table with Johnny Depp and just kind of watching him, watch the world around him and talk to people and his slowly engaging with people, I think will have some really interesting moments to explore, because a lot of people credited Woody Harrelson in being the most interesting character in Out of the Furnace, and he was so over the top, it was kind of hard to really, invest on, and he was just crazy, don't get in his way because he's just crazy. He might do something, where I think hopefully Cooper is really focusing and really bringing us a character that we could really invest in with Whitey, really learn about, really feel and really understand for, or either despise and hate, whatever way Cooper wants to go. But I mean, it's definitely in his hands, and I think that's kind of what's going to throw people off, is I think they're expecting a, bang bang shoot 'em up movie, and it might be a lot slower and might more calming than they're expecting.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I think that will definitely maybe affect the general audience.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I think that just people, general audience.
Yeah, but for film lovers, especially of this genre, could appreciate this approach he's taken. Yeah. And again, we haven't seen the film yet. We don't know what it's going to be like, but it's also interesting to know that this gangster Depp's playing Whitey Bulger was the inspiration behind Jack Nicholson's Frank Costello in The Departed. Mm-hmm. And it still appears that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are going to be creating another Whitey project.
I've heard that. I'm not sure how involved that's going to be, especially now that Batman literally, Batman is going to be taking over his life. But
from the report, I read that they're still planning on it, but I think they're still shopping it around because Warner Brothers doing Black Mass, then it'll be picking up another Whitey Bulger movie. So it's going to be interesting to see where that progresses down the line. Because just recently he was finally caught in some part of California. He's been on the run for years, and a couple years ago he was finally caught. So it brought a big attention to this gangster again.
And it also helped that there was recently a documentary made about him, which you could find, I believe, on Netflix. And here in Vegas, we have a whole museum dedicated to the mafia. We have the Mob Museum downtown, and they actually have a big portion, I believe, screen the documentary every once in a while at that Mob Museum. So, very, very cool. Again, I don't know. And usually double projects like that, though, make me nervous because obviously we might see something, a rehashing of the Jimi Hendrix story, which I guess we could kind of talk about. Mm-hmm. Andre 3000 played Jimi Hendrix in a movie called All Is By My Side, I believe. And, everyone's like, oh, that Jimi Hendrix movie already came out? I'm like, what? And then they're hearing that Paul Greengrass, the man behind most of the Bourne films, right? He did what, 3 out of them? 2 out of them? I believe, well, he did the majority. And he did Captain Phillips, is making another Jimi Hendrix movie. And they say, well, why are they doing that? Well, here's the problem, is that Paul Greengrass's version is working with Jimi Hendrix's estate, or experienced Jimi Hendrix, which basically has all control of his property and all of his licensing, where All Is By My Side was going in, creating this movie, thinking that they were going to be working with the experienced Jimi Hendrix, only find out that they're not. So they actually were not allowed to use any of Jimi Hendrix's music. So you tell a story about a man, chances are you kind of need his music to tell a story. I couldn't tell you a story about Vincent van Gogh without showing you his paintings. I couldn't tell you a story about Jackie Robinson without showing a baseball field. So obviously there were some issues here, though. It wasn't like they didn't play anything at all. There was no music. I mean, I believe they had some man, an artist in the UK kind of play songs, and I believe Andre 3000 sang a little bit to kind of change up things and make it to the point where it was legal. But though Andre has met a lot of critical praise for his performance as Jimi Hendrix, it's unfortunate that it seems like this movie kind of just fell by the wayside and will be overshadowed by the upcoming biopic. The question is now, who will play Jimi Hendrix in this upcoming movie?
Oh, it's going to be interesting to see the casting process of this, because there are a lot of young, talented actors out there that could definitely pull off Jimi Hendrix. I remember reading a report that people are calling for Anthony Mackie to be involved, Michael B. Jordan to be involved. So, and there's probably a list, the list goes on. So they definitely have their choices. And like you said, you definitely need his estate's approval, because what's the point of doing a Jimi Hendrix film if you can't hear Purple Haze, Voodoo Child, and all of that? And it's so funny that this is actually happening, because in the episode in 30 Rock, Jenna, played by Jane Krakowski, was going out after Janis Joplin biopic, which she lost to Julia Roberts. So she decided to make a B movie that could not use any of her songs, so they just changed the songs into like nonsense words and got away with it. And that kind of reminded me of this situation right here, where we won't have your songs, but let's do our own one that sounds like yours, but not enough, so you can't sue us.
There's a lot more stuff that I covered, again, on Movie News. I mean, yesterday I talked about the fact that Amy Schumer is teaming up with Paul Feig, which obviously anyone knows comedy is a great team up. Hopefully will do well. Francis Lawrence, after the Hunger Games, is going to be making an adaptation of The Odyssey that's going to be split into 2 movies. We talked about the fact that Mission Impossible 6 is already in development without Mission Impossible 5 even hitting theaters just yet. Much more. We talked about a release date for World War Z 2. And My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. And we also reviewed a lot of trailers this week. Pixels, Back It Begins, Black Mass. Excuse me. Who else? What else we have? Oh, Knock Knock, the Keanu Reeves movie. But the highlight of the week, and I'm sure where all the focus is the fact that there's been some leaked footage and video from both major upcoming pictures, Captain America Civil War and Suicide Squad. So there's been a lot of images and videos being leaked, and it's pretty crazy that movies that aren't going to be coming out for another year or so have already been such a major conversation. I think I talked about Captain America 5 days out of the week because there's so much updating. I mean, we were confirmed that Ant-Man's going to be in it, and then we're confirmed it looks like they're going to be shooting in what seems to be Wakanda, which will be the origin of Black Panther. We have this character confirmed, that character confirmed. Then we have these, set locations that are being photos being taken of, which definitely looks like Wakanda, or what could be Wakanda. And then we have images that actually show us a fight scene between Crossbones, who's played by Frank Grillo, and Captain America, which obviously is pretty cool. And the fact that this is already leaking, though, I mean, Marvel is definitely making sure that we're talking about this every day. And it is a main topic each week that keeps us focused and talking about it in that regard. As well as Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad, we had we had finally seen, we've had a lot of images of Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Definitely working with Will Smith and a few others of her carrying her bat. But the latest and probably the most emphasized leak was the fact that there was an image and video of Joker. That's right. Finally, Jared Leto interacting with Margot Robbie pre-Harley Quinn, which, you could kind of tell she doesn't have the hair dye. She's not as pale. And they're all in front of the car, and there's an argument, and Harley Quinn has a gun pointed to Joker's face. So I won't get into more details because it is the whole scene's kind of explained through video, which unfortunately I don't think is available anymore. I believe you can find the Captain America footage, but I believe the difference is the fact that Captain America's video was uploaded on Instagram and a few other places where Suicide Squad's leaked images were on YouTube, and it was very easy for Warner Brothers to get that taken down. So, but all that and more is available out there and available on our YouTube channel. You can just go to chasingcinema.com and hit that news button as well, and all of our videos will pop up. So it's been a crazy week in movie news, but now me and Louie are going to be talking about the 2 major pictures for this week, and that is Tomorrowland and Poltergeist. Louie will play more of a Q&A in this portion as he's not seen either of these films, and we will talk about one. So, Louie, why don't you start coordinating this conversation and tell me what movie you want me to talk about first?
Let's go with Poltergeist.
Okay.
Let's lead it off with that.
All right.
You're a big horror fan film.
Yes.
If I said that right, I don't know. Fan film. Tell me your experience with the original Poltergeist, and if you actually did enjoy it, still enjoy it today. Have you watched it recently before watching the remakes? Stuff like that. Get into the discussion.
Poltergeist hit theaters 1982, and it was brought to us by a director named Tobe Hooper, but it was more enforced the fact that writer-producer Steven Spielberg was behind the project. And we all know Steven Spielberg is able to create a lot of movie magic, especially at this time. Poltergeist was a really special movie to me because it was such a staple in our household. I felt like it was a movie that we watched all the time. And like you said, I am a huge horror fan, and there's something about Poltergeist that has always kind of held very, very special in my heart. The movie is definitely chilling. It was praised for its special effects. Preparing for this review this week, I kind of went back and I watched Roger Ebert's and Gene Siskel's review, and they both weren't too enthusiastic. Siskel was less enthusiastic than Roger was about this film. And though Roger made sure to compliment the movie's special effects, the film would later be nominated for 3 Academy Awards, which included Best Visual Effects, it wasn't at that time called this, but is now known for Best Sound Editing, and last, Best Original Score. Poltergeist tells this incredible story of a young girl who, a whole family moves into a new house. A lot of weird things start happening. They find out, well, they don't really find out, but, they do eventually, that a poltergeist is kind of manifesting this home, and their youngest daughter is taken into another dimension, and they can only hear her and kind of see her through the television, though it's not, as visual as you'd like to see it. But the only way out is to go into this other dimension and get her out. So obviously there is quite a lot of imagination here, but Poltergeist is very famous for some incredible scenes in which one of the characters' doll, who just so happens to be a very, very scary clown, and in my opinion, scarier than the clown, and even scarier than scarier of a clown than in the newer film, is taken over by the poltergeist and is moving around and scaring this kid. But this movie also has some really great performances. We have Heather O'Rourke playing Carol Ann, who is obviously the young girl who is trapped in the TV. Jo Beth Williams plays Diane, the mother, and Craig T. Nelson plays the father, Steve. And this whole movie kind of really emphasizes the fact that family can get us through everything, and family is what's going to take to survive any type of trouble. But obviously the most important part about this movie comes from a character that on screen might not look that intimidating, but once she opens up her mouth and kind of speaks, she just really makes this movie a classic. And her name's Tangina in the movie, but it's played by a very classic actress who unfortunately has passed away. Her name is Zelda Rubinstein, and she is the little lady who is brought to the home to get this little girl out. But movie again still works. I still watch it. I still appreciate the movie. It's a great film. It's a movie that I think will always be important to me just because we watch it so much as kids, and it was such a parent in our household. So I do love the original, and to put it in simple terms. Yeah,
I'm a fan of the original too. It just works.
It does.
It's a brilliant use of haunted quote unquote house type. So when you heard that they were remaking the Poltergeist, how did you generally feel?
Well, we're at a time right now where we're pretty much, it's like every filmmaker goes to a treasure chest and picks out a property that has some sort of fan base, cult following. I mean, Poltergeist is still very, very apparent. People still watch that movie. It has become a huge classic in the horror genre. So
still quoted today as well.
Yes, one of the most important movie quotes of all time. So at first I thought it was just, this director just so happened to pull out this particular title and was like, all right, let's do it. I can remake this. And I didn't really hear much about it in between. Then I saw a trailer, and my hope that I did have was lost. I was like, this looks lazy. I'm afraid that it's just going to be a movie that's going to be recreate pretty much everything that happens with little to no effort. And I wasn't excited about it. And I was like, it's just me another disappointing remake. I hope that they do something different. I mean, that's what I wanted. I wanted them to do something really out there. And I know they're going to really concentrate on the effects. And especially with the director, Gil Keenan, who brought us Monster House, an animated movie. Though I was kind of like, well, I don't know. But from what I seen, I wasn't too excited.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting pairing. Because here's this director who did Monster House, a kid-friendly
haunted house movie.
Haunted house movie. Now jumping up to the big leagues, live action. And here's the real haunted house task.
And telling one of the most classic and iconic haunted house stories of all time.
Yeah, so I was intrigued by that concept. Like, wow, that's pretty cool. What a path he led. So let's jump right into this remake. How did you like it? Or did you like it? And talk about Gil's choice of style, pacing, anything you please.
Okay, so like I've announced many times on this podcast, on videos, on reviews, I really do, though I might go in with low expectations and might not get myself excited, I always want a movie to succeed. I always want a movie to end up being good. I mean, people always say, critics don't like anything. That is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Do you think I go to the theater hoping a movie fails? Like, why would I want to go sit in a theater and say, man, I hope this 2 hours suck? It makes no sense. But this movie definitely didn't suck as bad as I would have imagined. And from what I saw from the trailers and what I saw and what I was expecting, it definitely did better than, but again, that is not saying super much. I think this movie was very effective in parts. It kind of got a few scares and it was a little bit of fun. I really can't go on beyond that. I think that the movie's problems lie in the fact that it didn't really go above and beyond to be different from the original Poltergeist. It was definitely more of a retelling. They changed small things like the characters' names and a few other here and things there. And they kind of laugh. But there are scenes where they actually laugh about the original. I mean, there's a scene where Sam Rockwell is at a dinner table with his wife, and they're kind of moved into this new neighborhood. They're looking to make friends, and he's trying to get a job. So there's just some tension. They're drinking a little bit, and this is where they find out that their house has been buried over a graveyard. And in the original Poltergeist, similar things happened, though it was an Indian, I don't remember the exact term, but an Indian sacrifice burial ground. So it wasn't like a graveyard. It was much more of like a very serious burial ground. And so they're talking, and these characters are kind of going back and forth, and they say, well, ever since they moved the graveyard, and they say, wait, what? Said, yeah, they moved the graveyard, to a nicer neighborhood. Oops, I'm sorry. Already making fun of the neighborhood they live in. And, they go, hey, it could be worse. At least it's not like an Indian sacrifice burial ground, So, I mean, they kind of tease stuff like that. But I would say the heart of this movie is definitely the young boy and the young girl in the movie, the stars, Griffin and Madison, who is played by Kyle. Griffin's played by Kyle Catlett, and Kennedy Clements plays Maddie, the young girl who is trapped in the next dimension. They are both very charming. Maddie is adorable. I mean, she is so likable. She's so cute. And Griffin is a really interesting character. I really liked him, and I really liked watching him because we learned that Griffin is the scaredy cat. He's the one that the family kind of sees as the problem because he has so many issues, night lights, being afraid of everything, being very fearful. At one point in the movie, he says, "What are you afraid? You got to stop." And he goes, what are you exactly afraid of? And he replies, like, everything. I'm terrified of everything. And of course, it only makes sense that of all the kids and where all they could put all of them, they stick him in the attic for the room. I mean, they don't help that kid in any sense. But, I mean, it's a really great story to kind of watch this boy who is so scared. I don't know if you want to consider this a spoiler or not, that he leaves his sister. Granted, he leaves his sister to go get help, but instead of staying with Madison, who is the equivalent to Carol Ann, and saving her, who's alone in her room, he runs and darts to get his older sister. And, that becomes a very big theme in the movie, that he left her and he should have never left her. So watching him kind of eventually, as you would imagine, take on courage and really kind of say, I'm tired of being afraid, I thought that was fun. The movie was definitely creepy. And one thing I loved is that it didn't turn into just a run-of-the-mill, so cliche slasher. Every movie we see now is really interesting. I think most horror films we see nowadays are really good partially, but then they turn into a slasher and everyone's just getting killed off and they rush it and it's like, ugh. This movie wasn't a slasher. There's one scene when you think a character's about to be killed and you're like, oh great, here comes a slasher where this poltergeist is just going to kill everyone off, which isn't like how the original poltergeist happens. And it doesn't. And I'm like, all right, cool, I'll give you kudos. But it's very classically creepy. Very odd things going on. A lot of clowns, obviously. In the first movie, there's one clown. In this movie, there's a whole box of them. But I mean, they use very classic techniques to scare you. There's a few moments where the audience jumped quite high. It got me once or twice. So I enjoy the fact that it was more creepy than haunting. And it's one of those. Poltergeist is a movie that I think that will scare you more in the theaters than it will, on the ride home. But I thought that was kind of effective, and I didn't mind it. I mean, it was an hour and 30 minutes. It didn't really drag. And actually, the pacing in the beginning is really good. It hops right into the story. We're already seeing things as soon as they move in. We could tell that Maddie has decided to make friends with this poltergeist, though everyone just thinks it's an imaginary friend. However, by the time we get to the issue of saving Maddie, who is trapped in this third dimension, or other dimension, I don't know exactly which number it is. It's like, oh, is that all? Was it that easy? It just clears up so well. It's no real challenge. I mean, in the first film, we could really kind of tell the desperation of the parents. We could really kind of tell how hard it is to get their kids, and just see the struggle in the parents. My problem was that, like, Sam Rockwell and his wife, played by DeWitt, Rosemary DeWitt, are just like so accepting. Like I don't know. I just feel like the way that they accept the fact their house is haunted and their girl's stuck in the TV, and everyone, like the paranormal investigator, everyone is just too accepting of what's going on. They're like, all right, oh damn, let's go get our kid out of the TV. Like, whoa, guys, you hear what you just said? I mean, as much as that's aggravating for an audience, for people not to believe what's going on, that's what happens. We need to have that doubt, because if we were in those situations, we would say, no, that's not real. And then, essentially, like I said, I think it was too easy of an obstacle to get over. There was no real challenge. So I think that's kind of where the movie lies. Overall, the entire decision of the film, the way it was moving, its pacing was kind of really screwed up. It didn't really stretch beyond the original. It didn't really add anything to the original besides a few more clowns. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't a train wreck. It wasn't the worst horror film I've ever seen. I mean, it was definitely an okay movie. I don't think it was bad. I mean, people are out of the thing, oh, it sucks compared to the original. And yes, Poltergeist, this remake is not going to stand the test of time. But I've seen 112 other horror films that suck so bad that I didn't even want to finish. This movie wasn't that bad of a journey.
One thing I want to not point out, but kind of maybe allude to and see if you will confirm this or reject this, is how much of this film being made is a direct result of the successes of Insidious or The Conjuring, because those films seem like it was taking back the practical approach of horror films. Mm-hmm. Not too much slashy. Here's a house, or here's a family that's haunted by this demon, or by these poltergeists, and they were largely successful films. Insidious spawned 2 sequels. The Conjuring had the prequel.
3 sequels. Insidious 3 is coming out. 2 sequels. Yeah, I heard. My bad. And Conjuring had Annabelle prequel, and I think they are making Conjuring 2. Yeah. How much has those success affected this movie, and did Gil Keenan try to, because you've seen all of these movies you're talking about, are they more in line with that style than the original Poltergeist? Can you see like a direct influence? Like, is this remake more influenced by them? I could kind of see an influence. There's definitely more of a a very similar style here. I think that James Wan has been a major influence in horror. And like I said, I think it I don't know if it's so much the influence from those movies, though, that inspired this movie, rather than, like I said, we're just kind of picking up properties that have an audience already. Like, all right, we're guaranteed to get some money, so let's just keep making it. And but there is definitely that kind of more practical feel where, I think that we've gotten every other horror movie is about an exorcism and a possession, and it's so overdone and so annoying that I think people are obviously just very vocal about it being over it. But horror movies, as bad as they get, are something that people will see. And, I talk to a lot of people and they say, horror is in the worst shape it's ever been in, and I don't necessarily agree with that. A lot of people are very pessimistic. But I love The Conjuring and I love Insidious. I think those are great classic horror films. I think those are really, really great movies. But it's tough when you put them against things that have stood the test of time. I think a lot of what we're watching won't stand the test of time, and at the same time, I think a lot of people don't want to admit that some of the things that we do watch that aren't as appealing to us, classic horror fans, are going to stand the test of time. Paranormal Activity, no matter if people liked it or not, will be a movie that people talk about in the future because of its found footage approach, from its huge box office, incredible delivery. Those are things that I'm sure might be remade in 20 years.
Especially the first one.
Insidious. The Conjuring, I think definitely films that will stand up. There's plenty of films that won't, that I'm not mentioning, and trust me, there's a lot. But I could see that Gil was kind of influenced by James Wan and wanting to recreate something. But there are quite a lot of special effects in this movie, and not all of them are that good, and that's another thing. Poltergeist was known for being such a great movies that offered special effects. Again, it was nominated for Academy Award for its special effects. Which, a horror film being nominated at a time didn't sound so crazy as it does now. But the effects weren't very impressive in this movie. And I could see the influence, but I think it was definitely more of let's take a property that's already well known.
So final thought. If you go to a movie theater this weekend and want to be scared, right? Yes?
If you want to be scared, that's kind of your only option.
Yeah. But it's better to see this film in the theater than wait for it to come on Redbox or Netflix because of the whole scaring approach.
I wouldn't even say that. I feel like, this movie is going to get exactly what it wants out. It's going to get the teens on Friday nights with all their buddies, 7, 8, 10 of these little kids who want to go see the scary movie. That's what they're going to get. I don't see many people walking in. If someone's going in there expecting to see an incredible remake, I think that's not the way to go into this movie. But I think if you're just in there and you're like, all right, let's do it. But honestly, I think some people would be very upset paying $11 to see this movie. Honestly, the easiest way to explain it is I thought it was very mediocre. I gave it 2 out of 4 stars. I thought it was okay. It wasn't the worst thing I've seen, though. So, personally, I would rather tell you to go see Mad Max above anything else. But it was okay. So if you're a horror movie fan and fanatic and you watch everything, go see it. Absolutely. I don't think it'll be the worst horror movie you've ever seen, but don't expect to be blown away. But if you're someone who's like, I love the original, don't ever remake it, don't go see it because you're going to be disappointed.
You heard it first here, folks.
And as always, you can read my review at www.chasingcinema.com/poltergeist, where I talk a little bit more in depth about it.
Very nice. Now moving on to the other big release of this week, and that's one film that I've been highly anticipating for some time now, and many people have been as well, because this film has been well documented in movie news for the past year and a half, because this film has been kept under wraps, very much so, and that's mostly due to its mysterious plot. And it's important to know that Tomorrowland was written by, let me get this name right because I'm going, Damon Lindelof, who is most notably known for Lost. He directed Prometheus, he wrote Prometheus, wrote Star Trek Into Darkness, War Z, stuff like that. Tomorrowland directed also, and this film was also directed by Brad Bird,
who brought us The Incredibles,
Iron Giant, Ratatouille. And it's impressive, actually, Brad Bird's filmography, because Iron Giant is a good classic animation. I think one that doesn't get talked about a lot.
Iron Giant?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a great movie. A favorite of a lot of people's. Honestly, I haven't revisited that movie since the first time I saw it.
So. But I was a big fan as a kid of that film. In The Incredibles, who doesn't love The Incredibles?
Yeah, absolutely. Which his next project he's already admitted will be Incredibles 2.
Very nice. Ratatouille. I was a fan of that as well. And he did direct a live-action Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Yes. So he has a very different, a nice variety of films on his filmography. So directing Tomorrowland was probably his biggest, most anticipated project yet, given his track record and given the whole aura surrounding Disney and the mystery behind this film. So Jake, give us a synopsis of Tomorrowland.
I wish I could. Tomorrowland is basically about a world or a dimension or place that all dreamers and all artists and creators and inventors who want a better world are able to go somewhere to create, to paint, to like do any type of artistry or creativity without being judged, without greed, without all these terrible things that stop good people from doing what they want. Tomorrowland tells the story of two unlikely characters, a young, scientifically curious girl, played by Britt Robinson, and an old, bitter man who we come to find out was at once upon a time in Tomorrowland, played by George Clooney, and the fact that Tomorrowland is endangered and they have to save it. Well, at least what we understand.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrowland comes, obviously, from none other than the Disneyland attraction itself, Tomorrowland. July 1955, Walt Disney introduced the world to Tomorrowland. And in 1955, what does that time mean? It was about probably less than a year, I believe. 1954, we finally have decided that desegregation of white and black students in separate public schools is unconstitutional. And we pretty much have the gears turning for the biggest civil rights movement in our country, and one of the most important movements, in our country. It wouldn't be long until Rosa Parks decides not to get up, and so on and so forth. And eventually, the world would change as we know it. So obviously the world was looking towards the future. We were looking for a better place, a more peaceful place, a place where people can live without hate and greed. And so Walt Disney, the man who brought imagination to life, decided he's going to make that world, and that is Tomorrowland. And he introduced Tomorrowland to the world in July of 1955, like I said. And now this idea, this concept is going to be a major plot point of this movie. Yeah.
Okay, so we got the plot, or a brief origin of the film. Very nice. Let's go. Let's stop beating around the bush. Get right to your opinion of Tomorrowland.
Tomorrowland was a disappointment. And the reason for that is because there was a lot of jumbled, uneven writing. I think that major problems for it lie in pacing and in storytelling. I mean, this whole movie is about Tomorrowland, this magical place that we want to go to, and we don't ever get there. And when we finally do, we're there for 10 minutes and we're rushed out. And I think that's a really, really part of the disappointment in this film. When I went in this movie, I was like, okay, I really would love to go on an adventure. I've seen a lot of action. I've been, seen a lot of horror films, but I don't remember the last great adventure I've been on. And I would love to just sit here and go on an adventure and enjoy it like a kid and just really kind of take it in. That wasn't the case. And I think that was a bummer for me, is the fact that this movie turned really generic midway and things started not making sense, and it felt like it was just unoriginal, and it felt like it could have been called Yesterdayland. I mean, it didn't do anything innovating. Hugh Laurie has a great performance. I would think that a lot of people are going to say the themes and the message of this movie is quite important, but even I think the theme and the message in the movie is kind of contradicted and a little bit jumbled and a little bit thrown around. And it's one of those cases where we have a villain who actually isn't wrong, but, we put it in the villain's mouth, which means it's kind of wrong, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of just writing issues that I couldn't get around. I mean, the very beginning of the movie, we have this young boy who is at the 1954 World 4, I believe, in the 50s. And he shows a character that he's invented the jetpack. And though it is denied because it doesn't necessarily work, he is introduced to Tomorrowland. And he's able to go, which basically we find out is hidden under, well, at least the transporter to get there is hidden under It's a Small World. So that's all you got to do. You got to go on It's a Small World. You got to hit a button at a certain time. You got to get your pin scanned and you get to go into Tomorrowland. But I would say the strongest thing about this movie, the real heart of this movie, lies with an odd relationship between a adolescent robot, I don't know if that's a spoiler alert or not, and George Clooney. This adolescent robot is basically the young person that allows the young George Clooney to get into Tomorrowland. And he develops a relationship with her. At a very young age, I believe of 10, he falls in love with her, only to find out that she's actually not human. Tomorrowland gets some bad things go on in Tomorrowland. They decide that they're kicking everyone out, and his character grows up to be a very grumpy, upset old man. And then when they're finally reunited, there's a beautiful chemistry there, a really, really wonderful relationship that really has the heart of this movie. But overall, the writing, the clunkiness, very clunky. I think that's a great word to use, just kind of jumbled and just all over the place.
It doesn't have a strong narrative.
No strong narrative. A lot of things don't make sense. And honestly, our main character isn't that interesting. Unfortunately, played by Britt Robinson. George Clooney is good, sure. I mean, everyone keeps asking, how's George Clooney? He's good. He doesn't get introduced till halfway through the movie. But it's just okay. It was okay. I gave it a 2 out of 4 stars to simply put it. Same as Poltergeist. So either or.
So if there's, besides the relationship between, the robot and George Clooney, which had a lot of heart, you said, what was one redeeming quality about this film?
I mean, the effects were good. I don't think they were the most outstanding effects, but I think the best part of the movie was the beginning and watching this young boy in the 50s build a jetpack and kind of find out what his motivation is, and realize that when he gets there, he's able to create this jetpack and he's flying through this world that he's never experienced before. And as we learned, it's all kind of in a montage-like feeling where we realize that, his dad has kind of always told him that there's no place for dreamers and inventors and all that stuff. And this kid is finally riding his invention through this land of creativity and endless possibilities, where a land where nothing is impossible. And I think that's the most exciting part of the movie. Mm-hmm. And that was where my adventure started, and it quickly came to an end.
From based on your description of this film and seeing the multiple TV spots for this film, does this movie have a strong message or a nice theme or something that can inspire you or, have a good connection with this movie? Because it seems like this is the type of movie that could have a very beautiful message.
Ironically, I think one of the most important parts of this movie is the villain's speech. And it talks about how humanity is accepting its demise more than fighting it. It talks about how we've been told that our world is coming to an end. But I mean, polar ice caps are melting. Our water is gone. So on and so forth, things that we normally understand. And because we can't do anything about it today, we don't do about anything at all. It's because something is not affecting us today. We are just kind of running towards our demise. And I think that's a really interesting speech. But again, you put it in the villain's mouth, usually that means he's wrong, he's not doing it right. But I think because of his extremity of, since the world doesn't want to fight for itself, then we should just let it perish. I think that in the sense that it's wrong. I think there is a good message in there somewhere. I don't think it's clearly delivered. I think beyond the fact that, what if the world was run by dreamers and people didn't judge and there wasn't greed, and if they ran, we were able to be creative as much as we wanted to, how beautiful the world would be, how perfect the world would be. But I definitely think it's kind of jumbled. I think the best part of the movie is, I guess, at the end, which I will... spoiler alert. The very end, basically what gets you into Tomorrowland, again, spoiler alert, are these pins. And at the very end of the movie, Tomorrowland is back up and running. and these characters are given these pins, and we realize it's not just painters, it's not just, huge musicians, it's the guy who's playing music on a subway. It's the engineer that's building our car. It could be anybody. They don't have to be extravagant, creative people. I mean, it could just be anybody. And these are the people that are basically the heroes of the world, is what they were kind of saying. And I like that message. But overall, I don't think the movie delivered a certain message too particularly, because it was too busy being a very odd and off-put, action kind of journey and road trip type deal. But there was definitely a theme in there somewhere that was good, but just kind of lost in the mess. And if you want to read my full review for that, you could go to chasingcinema.com/Tomorrowland. And that's going to wrap it up for us today, folks. It is Sunday. It is Memorial Day weekend. Have a great Memorial Day tomorrow. Again, if you want to read either reviews for these, you go to chasingcinema.com. If you want to watch our video reviews and our everything that we update each day, go to chasingcinema.com, hit that news button, or go to youtube.com/chasingcinema. Louie, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this with me. Guys, I thank you for appreciating you guys taking your time out to listen to it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and iTunes so each week you can listen to our podcast first and foremost. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jacob Tiranno. I'm joined by my loyal, faithful co-host / best friend,
Louie Coruzzolo.
And please continue chasing cinema.